We are here at the Star as the Cowboys prepare for another division rival opponent. This week is the Giants coming into AT&T Stadium. I'm joined by CBS Sports writer Garrett Podell. And Garrett, we have two teams that are both 0-1. They're both looking for a win. But if you were watching either one of those games, Cowboys versus the Eagles, Giants versus Commanders, it's pretty safe to say that the Cowboys had the better tape, if you will, on film. One thing that stood out, the Giants O-line is struggling, Garrett.
Yes, I mean, they're without left tackle Andrew Thomas, who's definitely their best offensive lineman, and he didn't practice again on Wednesday with a foot injury, so his status still very much in doubt for the Giants, and I think that's going to be a massive deal because, as we saw against the Commanders, I mean, Russell Wilson was running for his life, no touchdowns for him, very low completion percentage, and, you know, Russell Wilson, he's 36 years old, doesn't quite move the same. He took 560 sacks in his first 13 seasons. It's the most in NFL history. And the next closest guy on that list, Big Ben Roethlisberger, is at number 2. He took 100 fewer sacks than Wilson in his first 13 seasons. So kind of the beating that Russell Wilson's taken in his career is kind of unprecedented. And you kind of saw that on Sunday when he tried to escape out of the pocket and there just wasn't any room for him to operate.
Russell Wilson was definitely running for his life, a lot of scrambling. He was the lead rusher for the Giants with 44 yards out of the 7 rushing yards, so that kind of tells you what was happening there.
Absolutely.
The interior line, though, I think if you're Matt Eberflus and you're looking at the Giants, you got to like that matchup when you're talking about the Kenny Clark and the Osas, that vibe already in week 1 coming together.
100%. And an interesting stat is when Kenny Clark was on the field during running plays with the Eagles running backs, Dallas only gave up 2.5 yards per carry. I mean, so the Kenny Clark impact, even though you look at the total yards, they gave up 158 on the ground. Jalen Hurts did well scrambling, getting out of the pocket. But when it was traditional runs, running in between the tackles, and Kenny Clark was on the field, Dallas had success. And so I think that's definitely something to build upon because when speaking to Clark on Monday, he said, you know, this is scheme. He's still kind of getting the ins and outs of the communication and things like that. But he said what was one of the cool things is, you mentioned Oso Odighizuwa as well, they feel like their chemistry, even though they just started playing together, very strong. Kenny Clark played with Osa's older brother at UCLA, so they kind of picked up kind of like this. And so the hope, obviously, the more that Clark plays, the more he'll have the nuances of the different stunts and twists that Dallas is going to do, especially against the center and John Michael Schmitz for the Giants' second-round pick a couple years ago. He's really struggled for New York up front. So like you said, big opportunity for Kenny Clark and Osa this week.
Yeah, and like you said, the Kenny Clark situation, I think what's most impressive to me is that he literally had days to prepare with the Cowboys after playing 9 seasons, where the only other NFL team he's played for. So very excited what he'll do in that matchup. But let's turn to the other part of this defense, the cornerbacks. We heard from Trayvon today. Still in his ramp up, if you will, not the typical snaps, and that was expected in his first game back. But we heard from him today. He sounds good. He looks good. Do you think we'll see more of him on the field in week 2?
I do, because when we spoke to Brian Schottenheimer today, he said that every week we're going to ramp him up and give him more and give him more. And so I think we're definitely going to trend toward that. I don't know if this is the week that we see a full allotment of snaps for Trayvon, because he did tell us today that he's getting used to coming off the bench and having to stay warm and move around. But he did really well in his 25, 27 snaps. He wasn't targeted, so he did a good job in coverage when he was out there kind of with the nickel sub package. And I think one of the biggest things for him is just going to be, we'll probably see a lot more zone from the Cowboys defense. Matt Eberflus played a vast majority zone on the coverage snaps for Trayvon and just the defense as a whole. And that's a departure. When Dan Quinn was here, Dallas was a top 5 man coverage team in terms of percentage of man coverage played. So very much a stylistic departure, but the zones allowed the defense to be a little more creative. We talked about with Diggs today, his first time he ever really blitzed in the NFL, and he recorded his first quarterback pressure of Jalen Hurts in that game, although he said when he got close to him, Jalen kind of spun out and got away with him. So he's going to attack that next blitz whenever it does happen, kind of maybe put that shoulder down with a little more of a game plan with his rush, as you might say.
And just to keep an eye for the corner rooms in general, Deron Bland did pop up on the injury report for practice. So it's only Wednesday, but that's something to keep an eye on as well. But lastly, I want to talk about what everyone stopped talking about, which is Micah Parsons, but you kind of have to, because the pass rush, you can't deny it wasn't the same. There's a lot void there, but the good news is Cowboys seem to be still actively looking around to add some veteran pieces if needed.
Absolutely. And I mean, so statistically you look and they generated a 42.4% quarterback pressure rate, which was actually the 5th best in the NFL in week 1. But where we really saw the Micah gap was finishing. The Cowboys would get pressure on Hurts. They'd close him off, he'd be stuck in the pocket, and then Hurts would spin out, escape, and then run with the ball. I actually looked at this, so Jalen Hurts on the ground generated 7 rushing first downs. That was tied for the most of any player in the NFL last week, along with Jets running back Breece Hall. So yeah, getting maybe someone like a Jadeveon Clowney, who we saw was up on a balcony watching practice this afternoon while we were out there for the media viewing portion of it, that could be a really big help for Dallas in terms of they're still generating the pressure, but getting those finishing plays, like what we saw Micah do to Jared Goff in his debut with the Packers. He kind of snuck up out of the pile from nowhere and bear hugged Goff to the ground. And so maybe Clowney's 32, a little older, but maybe that's something he could provide in a limited snap count for Dallas on passing downs.
Yeah, another rotational piece, and has history with Schottenheimer, so he had a lot of praise for him. So that could be something, like you said, it's not official, but it could be something that could happen here today or in the following days. But that's going to be it for Garrett Podell, Briana Aldridge. Until next time.